Today we have a Dharmic special. The story of Bhai Balwant Singh Rajoana by Sarbjit Singh from Rajoana TV. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Bhai Balwant Singh Rajoana, also known as Rajoana, an ex-Punjab police officer, a Sikh freedom fighter, was jailed in 1995 for assassinating the Chief Minister, then Bhai Singh. His aim was for a better life for Sikhs and non-Sikhs in India. For justice for thousands of Sikhs killed in the 80s and 90s across India. In recent years, the term Bhai Rajoana, Sadi Suti Pei Kaum Nu Jagata. Bhaji, very big words. Thodi ye jankari sangatale about Bhai Balwant Singh Rajoana.
I think if we just give a small background to Bhai Rajoana, is that, like you said, he was an assassinated Chief Minister Bhai. But I think what Bhai Rajoana does is he represents pretty much everything that's wrong with the Indian system, and also the manner in which it's working against Punjab as a state and the Sikh faith itself. So Bhai Rajoana, when we talk about Bhai Rajoana, we often get fixated on the fact that he was part of such a massive incident. Taking out a chief minister or being part of a plan to take one out isn't a small thing, it's a huge thing. What people overlook often is that what led to something like that, what would lead a normal man who lived a life just like you and me, you know, he was a Punjabi Munda, Gabru Jawan, he was living his life as normal, he had a good job as a police officer. Why would he give up all that? You know, give up his family, his friends, and just be willing to blow himself up? What kind of circumstances, what lifestyle is there that makes somebody do that? This is what we often overlook.
And I guess, Bhaji, it wasn't a split-second decision.
Yeah.
You know, unhe koi cheez dekhi honi hai. Not
true.
Overnight. Yeah. He's seen something that sort of made his
exactly. And
mind.
That's a very good point. It's not a spur of the moment decision. The actual planning of Chief Minister Bhai took 2 to 3 years. But before that, when you say any koi cheez dekhi honi hai, we're talking about a guy who saw Harmandir Sahib reduced to rubble. You know, we see pictures of it and it breaks our heart. You know, you type on Google Operation Bluestar, the pictures that you see are quite harrowing.
Yeah.
Imagine walking on the Parikrama where there's no marble left, where there's blood in the Sarovar, you know, where the Akal Takht Sahib is nowhere to be seen. This is a guy who has seen Akal Takht Sahib destroyed by Vijayanta battle tanks. Now, we often say tank charte nahi Harmandir Sahib te, tank charte te. We don't even look at what does that actually mean, tanks. These Vijayata Bantu tanks, they weigh a ton. One tank weighs a ton. It can fire a target 2 miles away. So if you park it anywhere, it will hit its target 2 miles away. They parked 12 of those into a small Harmandir Sahib, into the house of Guru Ramdas, in the house of Guru Hargobind Sahib, and blasted it to pieces. So this is what Bhai Rajoana saw, and it's not just the fact that so much hell was unleashed during Operation Bluestar, where 5,000 people lost their lives, and the same weapons that were used against Pakistan in 1971 were used against the Sikh Harmandir Sahib. It wasn't just that, it was the fact that why were they used? This is why I think it's important to talk about Bhai Balwant Singh Rajoana, and this is when I talk about the Indian system, is that when Sant Jarnail Singh Khalsa Bhindranwale were leading the Sikh civil and human rights movement, what were they inherently asking for? Greater water rights, greater share of electricity, clean air. They're asking for Kirtan to be played across the whole world, transmitted across the whole world, just like we have today on Alpha, Punjabi, whatever it is. If people are watching that, are they terrorists? These are basic demands.
And they're not bad demands.
They're not bad demands, no. They would have benefited Punjab as a whole.
Yeah.
So, and you know, a train called...
And not just Sikhs, you know, non-Sikhs.
Non-Sikhs. And the movement was always about, Sikhi has always been about the betterment of mankind, not just about our own people, which is what sets our faith apart from everybody else. But then, you know, even a train called the Golden Temple Express, you know, that took, you know, the Sangat on a swift and safe journey into the heart of Amritsar. These were basic social, religious, economic demands. And there were also questions about democracy. There were also questions about safeguarding civilian rights. There were questions about the constitution. But rather than deal with that in a constitutional democratic way, which is the way India should have done, They call themselves the world's third largest democracy. They sent their tanks and made it into a sort of a terrorist movement, whereas the demands were basic.
And there was no media. Media was shut for 10 to 15 days, so there was no pictures, no videos going out to the rest of the world.
Of course. Brahma Jalani was the only journalist that was left in Amritsar at that time, and he talks about how he saw Sangat en masse just routinely shot dead. And so, you know, if your job was to get Sant Pindrawala, which is what we are told, that we just want that one man, why do you have to suspend a democratically elected government, Punjab's government? You suspend that, you dissolve parliament, you rule with emergency powers, you cut off Punjab from the rest of the world, you ban every single external journalist, and so all you have is your own internal media, and then you send in the might of your whole armed forces for 200 men who are just slightly armed with some self-loading rifles, and those, most of them are licensed by the Indian government. So the way they spun the whole Santaji issue was that Santaji is talking about greater water rights, cleaner air, fertile soil, more economic rights, greater share of electricity, Harmandir Sahib to be relayed across the world. What did they say? Terrorism grips Punjab. Terrorism grips Punjab. So they create this sort of Sikh in India who doesn't want to be part of the Indian Union, doesn't want to partake with India, is an introvert, wants to stay in Punjab and wants to see Punjab grow while the rest of India burns, which was far, far from the truth. Because like they know, that country wouldn't even have been free if it was Sikhs, if it wasn't for Sikhs. Why would we give 90% of the sacrifices towards independence if then we wanted to see it dissolve? Yeah, but the manner in which the state machinery was working against Sikhs, we had no option but to try and stand up for our rights.
So obviously, Bhai Balwant Singh, he saw this. He saw this. He saw the killing of Santaji. So obviously, Bhai Rajoana is a great man. We all know that. Why does a democratic country like India think the same?
Right. I think this is when we go back to the system of India. They call themselves a democratic nation, but even if we just go back to 1947, when the British had left India, they handed power to the Indian National Congress. So transfer of power took place, but that power never reached the people. Yeah. So India really isn't that much of a democracy to start with. But then when we come to the execution of Bhai Rajoana, let's have a look at why a democratic country wants to kill Bhai Rajoana. Let's just look at his case. He was Plan B in that whole assassination. There was himself and Bhai Dilawar Singh. Bhai Dilawar Singh was chosen to do it. Bhai Balwant Singh Rajoana was the backup. So he was Plan B. So at best, he's Plan B. So what can you then try him for? Attempted murder? Because he hasn't physically gone and killed that chief minister, has he? So the best you can do is attempted murder. Yet he has been languishing in jail for 17 years. And even then, they want to execute the man. Now, if we look at...
People don't get that for life.
They don't even get that for life, yeah? It's a true point. They don't get that for life. But if we look at somebody called Richard Reed, I think his name was, the shoe bomber, about 5-6 years ago, he had some nails and stuff in his shoe, and he was about to let it explode in an airport or an aeroplane. He was caught, right? When he was caught, they didn't go to execute him. Here's a guy who's tried to kill he's tried to kill civilians here. Yeah, but they didn't execute him. What did they do with him? They sat him down and they gave him counselling. They gave him psychological profiling. They looked into the reasons. They wanted to get into his psyche. Why would somebody want to put nails into his shoes, blow himself up along with other people? Yeah. So for years there was counselling and psychological process there. With Bhai Rajoana, if you are saying you're a democratic country and he is a terrorist, that means that you are the just, the moral and the right side. He, as a terrorist, he's messed up. He's mentally, physically, spiritually, religiously, he's messed up because he's a terrorist. You've told us he's a terrorist. Now, if you are the democratic country, how should you then deal with the terrorist? I'm not saying he's a terrorist. They are saying it. So if he's a terrorist, should you not then deal with him in a democratic, civilian, just moral way, if that's what you are. Why haven't they sat down with him and tried to de-layer him and ask him, why were you prepared to do that? What was wrong in your life? What was wrong in your state that you were prepared to strap bombs to yourself and kill and take out the chief minister? Yet they've not done any of that. They've not de-layered him. They've not given him any psychological profiling. They've not counselled him. They've not asked him what's wrong. And the reason that people do that, democratic countries like the UK do that, is so they can integrate somebody back into society. Reintegrate them back in, so they can stop other people who may be inspired by that person. Where has this process with Bhai Rajoana taken place? They have not tried to reintegrate him back into society. All they wanted to do is shut him up and execute him. Yeah, so what we are trying to ask is, whenever you get somebody, capture somebody like Jagtar Singh Hawara, Professor Davinder Pal Singh Puller, Lakha, Shamsher Singh, these people still exist. They are the relics of that period. They still exist. When you capture these kind of people and they've got Khalistani ideology, so if they believe in independence, sovereignty, just like Bhai Rajoana does, they've been forced to think that way. If they believe in Khalistan and you believe Khalistan is such a dirty word and such a terrorist ideology, why aren't you trying to de-layer these people? Why aren't you trying to de-radicalize them? Or, as I would submit to everybody who's watching, that it's not Khalistanis that is the problem, it's the Khalsa.
True. Talking about Bhai Rajoana again, is it right to say he has been the first Sikh in modern day Sikh history to awake our nation worldwide?
Worldwide. Excellent question. I think yes and no. Yes, because so many people like yourself, Inder, me, other people who are going to watch this, a lot of the youth are going to watch this, they would be inspired by him because he's living and breathing in our era. We look at him and you think, Ucha Lamma Jawan, Sona Sanaka, he looks like us, sounds like us, he speaks for us. So, you know, when he does speak for us, they think they have this affinity with him, they see the truthfulness in his eyes, they see the bravery in his heart, they can see it all. So I would say yes, in modern day times he has woken us up. But what we don't realise is 30 years ago, 25 years ago, 20 years ago, there were thousands of Rajoani. Thousands who were mercilessly butchered by the Indian state. The thing with Bhai Rajoana is that he's a survivor of that era. You know, like often they find war relics. Oh, we found this gun that was from World War I and they preserve it.
Yeah.
I see Balwant Singh Rajoana as exactly that.
Yeah.
He's a relic. He's like something that we found from our war. And we want to try and preserve that because he represents everything what the 80s and the 90s stood for, which is for the Khalsa to find its feet again.
You know, just small things like when clippets are shown of him, when they're sort of transferring him from one prison to another or from a prison to a courtroom, and there's like 30, 40 police officers around him. I mean, someone like me, if that was me in that position, I'd probably sort of head bowed down and, you know, you're away into the van. Shira wangu gajda. And, you know, the eyes and the colour of the skin, and he doesn't have to say anything, and the message is there in his eyes.
And that's true, and that's a very good point. Not only does he walk like, you know, a sher, it's 2 points. I'm glad you raised that because there's 2 points that come out of that. Number one, we see that sher surrounded by police officers, yeah. But imagine spending 17 years in solitary confinement.
Yeah.
17 years. You put me in solitary confinement for a day and I'll speak.
Yeah.
I'll speak the way you want me to. I'll dance like a monkey.
Yeah.
This man has spent 17 years, and for 15, 16 of those years in Darzian, we forgot him. We didn't know about him.
It's only recently,
Just
the
recently,
last 2 to 4 years
2 to 4
probably.
years. Now, if you are willing to give your life for the Panth, so you can save other people in Punjab, because that chief minister is ordering the killings of armed Punjabis, you've given up everything to take him out so other Punjabis, other Sikhs can live in peace. What do you feel then for the next 15, 16 years that you've been in prison? And 3, 4 of those first years, the first 3, 4 years, he was mercilessly tortured because he was a police officer at the time, and other police officers thought, right, you as a cop, you done this. So they broke his back, his legs, everything. Then the Panth forgot about him as well. How much mental strength does it take to still come out after 17 years with the noor on his face and to go into court, like you say, surrounded by those police officers, that takes some amazing strength. That's point number one. Point number two is this. When you say that he's surrounded by police officers and he's still shera wangu gajda hai, we do nare here in London every year. We go to Hyde Park and Khalistan Zindabad, India government down, down, all this stuff.
Yeah.
What does that guy do? He goes into that system, he goes into that court and tells our killers that they are killers. He doesn't do it 300 miles away. He doesn't go to a Gurdwara and do it and hold a placard. Like Sahibzada Ajit Singh, like Sahibzada Jorawar Singh, Sahibzada Fateh Singh, Sahibzada Jujar Singh, they went into Wazir Khan's court and told him, "Pe tu sada qatil hai."
He's doing it there in the
doing
tent.
it there. He's doing it there, and he's telling that system, because he's saying, if we don't go into the system and tell our killers that they are killers, how will they ever know? He's flying the flag on his own for us.
I mean, Bhai, you spoke about, every year there's marches, rallies, I mean, here in London, in Hyde Park, in Canada, America. I mean, in recent times across the whole wide world, there's campaigns, rallies against the execution of Bhai Rajoana. How important is that? I mean, even though you're saying that on one hand, we're 300 miles away, but there is still a significant point in that, koi faida hai, even for the outside
of course, yeah.
world.
Yeah, I mean that has its place to rally and to, because often that's what we're confined to doing. But when it comes to the question of, what was your question? Do we need to? How important is it? That
how important is it
that we save?
Yeah.
I think if I try and get into the psyche of Veer Rajoana, it's not whether we save him or not. The question is, how do we save him? The method that we save him with. What he's saying is, he said one thing last year, and he said it to the whole Qawm. He said, "Meri maut te na royo, meri soch nu bachayo." But if I die, je main shaheed bhi ho gaya, it doesn't matter. That's fine. But
that message.
But that soch has to stay alive. Let's say, because what Bhai Rajoana has done, he could easily. Now there's people saying, people like Badal and other people are filing mercy petitions. If he wanted to save his own life, he could have filed his own mercy petition. Bibi Kamaldeep Kaur, his sister, could have filed it on his behalf. What he's saying, why he's so willing to give a shaheedi, is to say that I'm not going to bow to this government that has killed our people in Delhi, November 1984, that has destroyed Harmandir Sahib in June 1984, that has combed the fields and towns of Punjab and massacred our youth for 15 years. How do you expect me to ask for mercy from these people? When Baba Fateh Singh and Baba Jujar Singh didn't ask for mercy in front of Wazir Khan, am I going to go to this Wazir Khan and ask for mercy? What did Bhai Rajoana do? He said, Main Sri Akal Takht Sahib nu samarpit hai. I will surrender to Sri Akal Takht Sahib. What is he trying to do? He's trying to empower Sri Akal Takht Sahib again. Just the way Sant Bhindranwale did. They empowered the Akal Takht again. Sri Akal Takht Sahib found its voice in the 80s. Sikhs flocked to Sri Akal Takht Sahib as a Supreme Court. Because when Guru Har Gobind Sahib created Sri Akal Takht Sahib, it was to say, and let's not get it mixed up, Sri Akal Takht Sahib, when Guru Har Gobind Sahib created it, it wasn't a beautiful building made of marble, gold, bricks and mortar. You know what it was? It was a thara, a 6-foot thara, which is a 6-foot block of concrete. Guru Har Gobind Sahib used to sit there and he used to say to the people, this is Sri Akal Takht Sahib. He said, when the leaders of the world trample on you and trample on your rights, you come to the Supreme Court, Waheguru's Takht, and we will get here. So that was a soch. Now what's happened is, the Akal Takht Sahib has become beautiful, but we've lost its soch, which is sovereignty. What Bhai Balwant Singh Rajoana is saying, Main Sri Akal Takht Sahib nu samarpit hai. I surrender myself to Sri Akal Takht Sahib. What he's trying to say to you guys is, if you want to save me, rise like the Khalsa. That necessarily doesn't mean pe hatiyar chakko, bardo katado. No. What he's saying is, there's a number of ways to rise like the Khalsa. You can stop participating with the Indian Union. You can stop paying taxes to them. You can stop giving your grain. You can start sustaining yourself. Jathedar Sahib, find a voice. Because from Patiala jail, number 16, Patiala jail, people are saying the Khalistan Zindabad is coming from there. But it's not coming from Sri Akal Takht Sahib.
When it should be coming from there.
This is when we talk about a soch. When you ask me in this here, how important is it that we save Bhai Rajoana? I think it's more important that we don't kill his soch. Because ਆਪਾਂ ਉਹਦਾ ਸਰੀਰ ਬਚਾ ਲਈਏ ਪਰ ਜੇ ਉਹਦੀ ਸੋਚ ਮਾਰ ਕੇ ਉਹਦਾ ਸਰੀਰ ਬਚਾ ਲਏ ਫਿਰ ਕੀ ਫਾਇਦਾ?
Rajoana TV was set up last year by you and your team. How did this come about and why did you start this channel?
Okay, I mean, like with everybody else, I was really affected by Veer Rajoana, just like yourself and everybody else. And then I think it was March 31st, 2012, which was the date set for Bhai Rajoana's execution. I remember I took the day off work 2 days before because it was a protest, and I went to the protest and saw how people had reacted to Bhai Rajoana. They wanted to save him. And in my mind, I thought to myself, well, there was a term that was bandied around a lot in the 80s, and it was often used by somebody called Baba Gurbachan Singh Manuchal, whose 20th anniversary is, Shahidi anniversary is today.
Okay.
And it was takht or takhta, which is freedom or slavery, Shahidi of slavery.
Yeah.
And I thought the same for Bhai Rajoana. I thought if he gives a Shahidi, because he doesn't belong in that era, the kind of soch he has, the mentality that he has, he doesn't belong with us. He belongs in that era where all our Shaheeds of the 80s belonged.
Yeah.
So him giving a Shahidi his blood will reinvigorate the Khalsa and it will rise. Or if we save him with anak. We stare Delhi in the face, not with fear in our eyes, but with resolve, and say, try and touch Balwant Singh Rajoana. Open Solar number 16, open the door, and we're taking Balwant Singh Rajoana. The Khalsa Panth is rising. This is what we expect from our Jathedars. What I didn't want to happen was that there be a stay of execution and Bhai Rajoana is neither given Shahidi or isn't released, and he just languishes in jail for the next 17 odd years. That was a perfect solution for the system, because the Indian system, because we as Sikhs often forget very easily, and next year we may even forget that somebody called Bhai Rajoana even existed, and he may languish in jail for another 17 years. When eventually 2 days before the execution and we were on the protest, it was declared that, oh, there's been a stay of execution, they're not going to execute Bhai Rajoana yet. And I remember I was thinking, man, this is crazy, this is the Indian system playing us again. But I could see everyone doing jihadi.
As it's done over the years.
As it's done that
not
many
just
times.
in this incident.
Yeah, it's done that in many. We've got brothers in jail who've been languishing since 78, you know, without even a charge. They may not be as strong as Balwant Singh Rajoana, you know what I mean? So we have to look for everyone. But anyway, our local Granthi, I won't mention any names or anything, but he came and gave laddu, and I said, Aga de liya, and he said, Rajoana bach gaya, appa bajata unu. I thought, no, we haven't. You know, he wants Shahidi or he wants release with pride, but he doesn't want. You try languishing in jail for the next 17 years. And so I thought to myself, our people are so easily duped. So on that night, myself and a couple of other people, we thought we need to get a message out. And we just got a camera, sat down on a chair, and for the next 40 minutes discussed the whole Bhai Rajoana and analysed the whole Veer Rajoana incident, and stuck that on YouTube, and it just, you know, I had a huge response, a huge response. And from then on, Jaspal Singh was made Shaheed in the Punjab protest, so we made an episode on him. Then we realised Sumedh Saini, which is a trained killer from the 1980s, was made head of DGP of Punjab Police, head of Punjab's police, head of Punjab security, when he's got the blood of thousands of victims on his hands. No one knew who Sumedh Saini was, so we made a video on him.
Yeah.
What we found was that there's an awakening going on. Finally, we've got some media in our hands, and
which we didn't have back in the 80s.
We didn't. Yeah. And we talk about Bhai Rajoana. There was thousands of Bhai Rajoana in the 80s. It's just we had no media to portray what they were thinking. You know, real visionaries like Sukha and Jinda and Dr. Gurnaam Singh Bhuttar and Babu Manochal, Avtar Singh Brahma, they were real visionaries. They were real intellectuals. They were some of them professors, but the media branded them as terrorists. You know, not people who had aspirations, democratic aspirations, and wanted to change some of the constitution of it. Just terrorists. So we had no media. Now we're in a situation where the love that Rajoana TV was getting, and I must say, I do get an amazing response.
That was going to be actually my next question.
Yeah, before we go on to that response, Rajoana TV isn't about an individual.
No.
It's not about me. The love that Rajoana TV got isn't because, you know, of an individual. It's a source. But let's. I'm probably going off the track a bit.
And it's not a money-making, profitable
thing
you set up.
It's nothing to do with money. But before, our mission statement when we started Rajoana TV was speaking from the heart, seeking the truth without any fear. What we found when we started Rajoana TV, not just when we started doing the episodes, was even though we often have our own media, radio, TV and stuff, they're often very sometimes restrained in what they can say or show. We don't know who they're governed by, we don't know who they're trying to please, or we don't know what kind of constraints they have. And often our media tells us what's happening, but it doesn't tell us what it means for us. This is why we thought Rajoana TV will be really important. And again, when we say Rajoana TV, this isn't just about Veer Rajoana, because then what we do is we take away from his own source. Rajoana TV, if you look at it, there's only one actual episode on Veer Rajoana. All the others are about our past heroes, our killers, our butchers, Operation Bluestar, all these kind of things. So when people hear Rajoana TV, it's not just about by Rajoana. That Rajoana is a source. It's about Khalsa ideals. It's about digging for the truth. It's about searching for the truth. And this is why we thought Rajoana TV was really important, is so we can get the truth out there to people.
Obviously, you've set up Rajoana TV. I mean, Merialu personally, it's a great thing, and it needed to be done years ago. But Goriandi Kahavat, we have a better late than never. What's the reaction been from the Sangat?
Okay. The reaction, I must say, hand on heart, has been something that I could never have imagined. What we wanted to do when we got the first episode out was just get the truth out, guys. Look, what's happening with Rajoana, this is what is really happening, this is the truth, try and think outside the box. But the love that we've received hasn't been for Sarbjit Singh, it's not been for Veer Rajoana. Again, we go back to that source. The pain I have in my heart about the 1980s, about my Akal Takht Sahib, my Harmandir Sahib being destroyed and reduced to ashes, my Sant Pindrawala having bullets in his chest, my people being butchered like a combine harvester going through a field. That pain that I have in my heart, in the thing, you've got it in your heart as well. And the people who are watching it, they've got it in their heart as well. It's just that Guru Maharaj has blessed a Joey like me to give everyone's pain a little voice. Yeah, so I'm not doing anything innovative. I'm not doing anything heroic. All I'm doing is giving your pain and everyone else's pain and my own a voice.
Baji, the biggest thing is, personally, is awareness. I mean, before I even met you, a few weeks ago, I met you for the first time. I've seen your TV work, I've seen your speeches, and I'm not just saying this because you're sat in front of me, you know, but andro awaaj bol diya. And sometimes it takes that, you know, nothing against Sade Guru Ghar. You know, it's a routine in our Guru Ghar. Swear no this, Dapar no this, Takala no this. But a message and awareness needs to be told, needs to be said to the Sangat.
You're completely right in this thing. That's a very valid point, because when we talk about the Gurdwaras, everything's always, you know, it's in Punjabi and stuff, and fine, we need to do our Simran, we need to do our Katha Gurbani, we need to do everything Seva. But let's talk about this as well, because we often
it's a very big part of
our history. And again, in the thing like about Rajoana TV was that people are trying to whitewash this era of our history. They're saying, fine, talk about the Vadda Kalukara, talk about the Shota Kalukara, talk about Bandha Singh Bahadur Shahidi, talk about Jallianwala Bagh, but don't talk about Operation Bluestar.
England won the World Cup in 1966. Aj tak vi gore.
Exactly. And you know, they'll still beat that drum. But what, again, when I go back to Rajoana TV, the reason why we started Rajoana TV is because there's such a whitewashing trying to erase Operation Bluestar, Operation Woodrose, Operation Shuddhi Garden, trying to erase Balwant Singh Rajoana, Gurbachan Singh Manachal, Sant Pindrawala from my memory. Rajoana TV is just an awakening. It's to connect people to that history again. Solutions, yes, we look for solutions, but we can't look for solutions unless we know there's a problem. Rajoana TV is there to tell you that, you know, your house is on fire.
Well, you know, when you set up Rajoana TV, did you face any challenges while setting up and airing Rajoana TV?
To be honest, the right people are on our side and the wrong people aren't. When, I can't remember who said it, I think it was Winston Churchill.
Okay.
He said, you've got enemies, good, it means you made a stand in your life. Now, when we set up Rajoana TV, we didn't talk against any one faith. We didn't talk about anyone's religion or anything like that. We just tried to give people snippets of the truth. Now, even that hurt people, you know, through Twitter and through other social media. I did receive threats. But the threats were, you're a terrorist, you know, Punjab is peaceful now, why are you stirring up hatred again? And I was like, you know, if you look at the videos, we're not actually pinpointing any religion. We are pinpointing a system. We are pinpointing a system where it's made legal and it's validated the killing of one particular type of people. You can go to jail in Madhya Pradesh if you kill a cow, but you could kill 5,000 Sikhs during 1 week and you'll get a medal for it.
Yes, yeah.
You know, this is what we're trying to tell people. We're not against any one religion. We are against a system. You know, a system that has been successfully crushed our aspirations. It's successfully crushed our confidence. It's successfully crushed our people, physically, mentally, psychologically. So Rajoana TV is there for an awakening, just to say, look, you may have done this, but nothing has been put in place to resolve it. And Rajoana TV and people like you, me, doesn't matter whether it's Rajoana TV or not, we are born in this country. We have the democratic rights that this country offers us. We will use our voice to give rise to these issues.
Very recently, an article was featured in the Hindu newspaper, India's third largest newspaper, recently talking about the impact of Rajoana TV, both here and abroad. How significant was this?
To be honest, when when that article came out, I myself, I thought Rajoana TV's done its job, not conclusively, but we've done what we wanted to set out to do, which is rattle the cage of those butchers. Now, that article, it was supposed to sort of, I think, talk down on Rajoana TV and some of the things that we were talking about. But in essence, when I read the article, it was actually trying to say that the era of shouting "Jo bole sonihal Sat Sri Akal" from a stage and waving a karpan in the air once a year in Hyde Park, this is what their movement had become. There was no awakening, there was no education, there was no empowerment of the people. What are you people as the Khalsa Panth going to do? Instead, we'll wave karpans in the air, say, "Jo bole sonihal, India government down, chalo, have langar and let's go home." This is the Indian government who rubbed their hands. When this article came out, what they were trying to say was, young, educated people, I'm not saying I'm young or educated, but young, educated people are asking legitimate questions. They're making legitimate comments, they're making legitimate statements, and we haven't got an answer for their questions, and we can't counter their statements. This is what they were saying. Now, this is what they were fearful of. What they thought was, a few generations down, post-1984, there'll be a few grey-bearded, you know, the star wale who carry on the fight, but these guys are beginning so interested in their jobs and trying to get a C-class Mercedes and a big job that, why would they want to know about this? What they found is that, no, these people haven't forgotten, because it's not in our DNA or our genetics to forget.
And we're not going to forget.
And we're not going to forget. Not only are we not going to forget, but we are going to look for solutions. And the problem isn't what we are saying, the problem is that people are listening. And when you mentioned that article, the last line of the article says, what is worrying is that even moderate Sikhs are finding it hard to defy their logic. Firstly, why as a newspaper are you worried that people are following some kind of logic? Secondly, for too long they've been able just to label us as terrorists, just as a bunch of monkeys who've got nothing better to do than to jump up and down and shout about how they've been screwed over. But now media, we do have the media. Before we didn't, and we've lost diamonds in Punjab because we had no media. We don't know what they were about. But now we do have the media. We can talk about these diamonds. We can talk about the faceless war. Another aspect of Rajoana TV was let's not just forget, because what people are trying to turn us into is a bunch of never forgetting, mercy petition filing, clemency seeking people. We are the... the Prime Minister of India, Manmohan Singh, a few years ago, didn't sort of, you know, just mumbled, not even an apology, and said, like, let's forget about it. He's a Sikh Sardar, you know, and how, as a Sikh, can you say, let's just forget about it, it's in the past now? However he's put it,
That's what he's saying.
That's what and he's and this is when I talk about, I mean, we'll talk about this in greater depth at some point, is compliant slavery. Compliant slavery, Manmohan is a typical example of it. He looks like a Sardar, but he's got the heart of somebody who's very much part of the Indian system. His family were attacked during November 1984 in the Delhi massacres. His own family. Yet 20 years down the line, he says we should forget. What type of compliant slavery is that? Secondly, you know, black people in America, for years they faced discrimination, they faced inequality, you know, low-paid jobs. They don't have the same type of benefits and equality that middle-class white Americans do. All of a sudden, Barack Obama, a black man, becomes a president. Ask any black person now, have you got equal rights now? Have you got better jobs? I'm sure you get a resounding no.
Yes.
Just because America has a black president, it doesn't mean now black people are now equal. And just because there's a so-called Sardar heading the Indian state, it doesn't mean that Sikhs are now peaceful. You know, so we shouldn't be duped into this. You know, so this is when we often talk about thinking outside the box. This is why Rajoana TV exists, to be honest, because people would ask these questions and we've got answers for them. You know, all they need to do is search for the videos.
Bhai, we've spoke about Bhai Balwant Singh Rajoana. We've spoke about the message, the awareness message that he sent out many a times through letters, via Jarkare, and we spoke about Rajoana TV that you set up last year. It's been a great hit with the Sangat. Bhai Rajoana has the same thoughts of Santaji, Sant Pindrawala, Janel Singh Pindrawala. He has mentioned his name in many letters that have been sent via his sister to the Sangat worldwide. Are they similar in any way in what Santaji said many years ago? I mean, what's the comparison? How similar are they?
I think Bhai Rajoana's letters are quite similar to Santaji's views.
Yeah.
Santaji's views are quite similar to Baba Deep Singh Ji's views. Baba Deep Singh Ji's views are quite similar to Baba Banda Singh Bahadur's views.
Yeah.
Their views are quite similar to Guru Gobind Singh Ji's views, who's quite similar to Guru Arjan Dev Ji's, who's quite similar to Guru Nanak Dev Ji's. What I'm trying to say is that Santaji or Bhai Rajoana haven't created their own system, their own version of Sikhi. They're actually just treading on the same footpath as their master, Guru Nanak Dev Ji.
Yeah.
Because Guru Nanak Dev Ji, when they were born, they were labelled as an enemy of the state by Babur, who was one of the most evil rulers the world has ever seen. Guru Nanak Dev Ji took a stand and saying, look, we will let justice prevail even if I have to suffer. Guru Arjan Dev Ji never gave up their Sikhi even when you know, they were sitting on a tatti tavi and they had hot sand poured on their head. They never once gave up their Sikhi. Guru Gobind Singh Ji sacrificed everything for truth, freedom and justice. They sacrificed their families, their youngest sons were bricked alive. Baba Banda Singh Bahadur was chopped to pieces. You know, he had his son's heart taken out of his body and put in his mouth. Bhai Mani Singh had his body chopped to pieces. Baba Deep Singh fought without his head to free Harmandir Sahib. Baba Gurbakh Singh freed Harmandir Sahib from Ahmed Shah Abdali and the other Mughal rulers. Santaji, what people would tell us is, these people are fine. Talk about your great masters, your great gurus. Talk about their shaheeds. But don't talk about your modern shaheeds. Because back in those days, the people that were persecuting you were the Mughals. But today, we are the persecutors. India is our persecutor today. So what they've tried to do with us is separate what Santaji and people like Bhai Rajoana and Bhai Amrik Singh and General Lab Singh and Bhai Mathura Singh, what they stood for, and separate that from Baba Deep Singh, Banda Singh Bahadur and the rest of our great gurus. Is because they don't want people like us who are living in this generation to be inspired by them. They want us to carry on looking back in our history 300 years ago to find our heroes.
Yeah.
But our heroes also existed in 30 years ago.
30 years ago.
And the reason why Santaji stood firm when all the tanks were rattling and the jet bombers were roaring was to let you in there saying, and me know, and everybody's watching, listen guys, we can be as formidable as our forefathers, even to this very day. Bhai Rajoana, even this in our lifetime, is exactly the same message. He's been branded an enemy of the state. But what is he asking for is the same thing that Guru Nanak Dev Ji was born. It's the same reason why they were born, is to rid the world of tyranny and injustice. And not to talk about it from your house, not to talk about it from far away, but to get into the thick of it and call the killers. that they are killers and show them that they're wrong.
Bhai, I mean, Bhai Rajoana, at the moment, how does it stand with his execution? Have they sort of just another run-of-the-mill where they're just sort of in the system and there's... what?
I mean, as it stands now, there's a whole complicated process, but when a stay of execution was put on Bhai Rajoana's impending execution, a mercy petition was filed by, you know, the Badal and the SGPC. They filed a mercy petition. It was completely against what Bhai Rajoana wanted, because it was either I leave according to Khalsa traditions and I'm released, you know, with honor and pride, or I give my shahidi. When they filed that mercy petition, no one actually looked into what does that mercy petition, what was the grounds for it. What we found out recently, and as a Qawm we're really bad at this kind of stuff, is because we're so duped so easily, we start doing Bangla and handing out laddu so quickly, is we didn't actually look at what did the mercy petition say. What that mercy petition said was, it wasn't that you can't kill a man like Bhai Rajoana because, you know, he's a Sikh who served his time, not that he's done anything wrong, because no one's even had an open inquiry into what led Bhai Rajoana to do this. But that's a separate issue. The mercy petition was filed because there were still 2 cases pending. One was some RDX. These were trumped up charges. One was RDX, explosives, and one was a handheld pistol. So they were saying these 2 cases are pending. Fast forward a year, they've gotten rid of one case and given Bhai Rajoana 10 years, which is completely fabricated. And they're waiting for this gun charge, I think. Once they get rid of those 2 cases, it may be safe to say that they will try and execute Bhai Rajoana as soon as they can. So we could lose our brother very quickly, or they could play some serious politics. Badal could be...
Which they have been playing for the last few years anyway.
For the past few years. Badal wants to be seen as somebody who doesn't rock the boat with the centre. He also wants to be seen as the saviour of the Sikhs. So what he may do is prolong Bhai Rajoana, get the government, the centre to prolong it as much as he can, wait for the next elections, and if the Congress get in, they can deal with him.
Okay.
You know, so I mean, this is how we stand. But what we need to stop becoming fixated on is the verdict. We need to look at the process that got him there. That's what we need to concentrate on. If we can free Veer Rajoana, that's all the best. And if we can free him with Khalsa pride, that's better. Freeing him may make us get a stand and try and free other things in Punjab. But as it stands, we need to look at the process and the system that exists that can get people like Bhai Rajoana and put them in prison.
My next question, you know, deep down I hope it never ever happens, but if Bhai Rajoana is executed, what would that mean for Sikhs as a whole in India and across the globe?
Okay. I think if Veerji is executed, it'll be a personal blow to everybody. For me, it'd be like losing, you know, a family member, but I think a lot of people would feel that way. But we are often told, even today, even Punjabi songs, you know, jado Sardar torda pe ain karda, oh karda, khap paunda, ah karda. Yet we as a Qawm have been reduced to seeking clemency and mercy. A Qawm that has been told by its gurus, by its Reber, by its top person, that you are sovereign and you completely fight for sovereignty and independence with diligence, with righteousness, and you battle against injustice. We are a Qawm that can't even free our brothers from prison. We were a Qawm that used to save Hindu girls from the clutches of Mughals. We were a Qawm through Banda Singh Bahadur that ruled the subcontinent. With Raja Ranjit Singh, no one had ever seen an empire like his. And now we're reduced to using our Waheguru's Takht, Sri Akal Takht Sahib, to go to Delhi and ask for mercy. This is when I say, if Veer Rajoana is executed, what would it say about our Qawm? That we have one last soldier standing from that bloody period of the 80s and we couldn't even save him.
You know, something that you mentioned earlier on, sometimes as a Qawm, we sort of quickly forget. You know, once a year, go to Hyde Park, Kocha Parlo Sangda de Naal, Inne Vaje Kucha Tornia, and that's it, it's forgotten about. Last year, I remember, I mean, something I personally done was put Pledge Orange on my Facebook site for so many days, and you know, I'm sat here like probably everybody else. I'm a mug, and within a few days, it was forgotten about. And the thing is, it's forgotten about.
Which is,
it's sad, isn't it?
It's a sad state of affairs, but it's a reality for us. Is that we forget really, really quickly, and we think that if we press a like on someone's status, that we've done our bit on Facebook.
Yeah.
That's what we've become, a bunch of likers on Facebook. But we really need to become active ourselves, because no one's going to do it for us.
You've heard the term keyboard warrior.
Yeah.
You know, you can sit there and type, but it's getting that message.
It's getting that message across, and it's actually getting off your back and doing something. You know, it's not enough to say that, you know, we've got such an amazing history and we've got so many great shaheeds, even like people like Veer Rajoana still standing today. It's a matter of going out there and doing something yourself, because Veer Rajoana isn't just saying stick my picture up on your Twitter or your Facebook, and you know, I mean, and that's your way of you know, doing a tribute to me. No, if you wanna do something for Veer Rajoana, do something, move something, shake something, say something, write something. You know, we all come from Punjab, yeah, and Punjab is littered with intoxicants. It's littered with liquor, illegal pharmacies, drugs. There's people with skill sets. They've got pharmacy degrees, or they know how to talk to people. They know how to counsel people. They know how to make people feel better about themselves. They know about drugs. They know about liquor. There's doctors, medicine, people who know about chemicals like pesticides and fertilizers. People who know about cancer. Go back to Punjab and take care of your bend. You know.
Sarabjit Singh, you know, to me personally, I look at another thing. It's very saddening that some of our leaders in the Punjab are fed by the Indian government. And I mean, just a random thought, I'm a folk Bhangra dancer, and when I have a dastar on my head, I'm so proud. You know, you've got like 1,000,001 things going through your head. When you're dancing and promoting that dance of folk Bhangra, there's so much robe about you. And these guys who are so-called Sikh leaders, they've got the star on their head, and they are fed by the killers, of our religion.
That's a beautiful point that you made. Bhai Balwant Singh Rajoana's sister Bibi Kamaldeep Kaur said a really, she'd passed this message on, and she said, this is what Veer Rajoana says. And I think he summed everything up with what you just said in a few words. He said that Khalistan has become ਉਹ CD ਬਣ ਗਈ ਆ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਨਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਲੀਡਰਾਂ ਨੇ ਚਲਾਉਣ ਦੇਣੀ ਆ ਨਾ ਬੰਦ ਹੋਣ ਦੇਣੀ ਆ. That Khalistan, and talking about our rights and sovereignty and our human rights abuses, civil rights abuses, has become a CD that they're neither going to play nor stop. These people on that level are our glass ceiling. They are directing us, but they don't want to please this Panth. They want to please another person. Because if they wanted to please the Panth, Veer Rajoana would be walking the streets by now. Punjab wouldn't be intoxicated. Punjab wouldn't have farmer suicide. It wouldn't have female feticide. Punjab wouldn't have fake Dere Babe. Punjab wouldn't have young students like Jaspal Singh still to this day killed by the police openly in the streets of Punjab. You
know, on that point, there are some great charities.
It's become a business.
Yeah, I
mean,
a lot of people. Just going away from what we were talking about, I mean, you spoke about the serious problems of drugs, alcohol, farmers, suicide. There's some great charities out there. You know, I'd like to mention United Sikhs,
of course,
Carl Said, Sangat TV, you know, other channels in our Sikh media who are doing some great work. And, you know, Sangatan nu benti a to get involved with the channels, get involved with the charity organisations and help and donate. And not just donate money, but donate your time. You know, get involved with Rajoana TV. I mean, speaking about Rajoana TV, what is the future plan? Plans with Rajoana TV?
The future plans is to continue to keep the project going, especially knowing that it's rattled Delhi's cage quite hard. It's given us the impetus to make even more videos and try and hit people even more. is to go around. We done a little tour in the summer in one Gurdwara in each major city and done a talk about the faceless war in Punjab, because we often fear that we're becoming never forgetters of 84 and forgetting that there's a war still on in Punjab. So, I mean, Rajoana TV, hopefully we're going to continue making videos, and we have a lot of people come up to us and say, look, you know, when we start talking about Sikhi, because we're Amritari or whatever, people think, oh, you know, you're bound to talk about that. Or our kids, you know, there's no way of us communicating with them, but when they watch Rajoana TV, things make sense to them. So what I'm hoping with Rajoana TV isn't just that we can awaken and keep some kind of momentum going that Veer Rajoana has started, is so that this is an online resource that my kids can watch in the future, your kids can watch, everybody else's kids, the new generation, because even the books on 84, they're not in print, half of them anymore. The bullet holes in Harmandir Sahib, they've all been plastered over. Even Guru Granth Sahib Maharaj's Saroop that had bullet holes in it, they want to do the sanskar of that Saroop. They want to erase every memory of this. So we're hoping that Rajoana TV, along with other organisations, great organisations out there, can try and keep this candle burning, so that future generations know what exactly happened to us. And eventually, I mean, my dream would be to take Rajoana TV to Punjab, because ultimately where change is going to come is from our motherland. And, you know, maybe, you know, Maharaj bless me with enough strength and bless, you know, his lines out there, that we can all one day go back and do a little tour over there.
I mean, we're supporting you. I'm supporting you personally. You know, what a deep interview.